Over just a few short months from 1991 to 1992, a vicious killer took the lives of at least 5 women in New Jersey. What makes the murders worse is that the monster was on parole for prior attacks on women after serving only 10 years of a 30-year sentence. It is frustrating how many of these guys slip through the cracks to kill again. This killer stabbed, strangled, and bludgeoned his victims, and most were dumped along a toll road that runs the length of New Jersey. Jerome Dennis, the Garden State Parkway maniac. Jerome Dennis was born on December 14, 1966, in the Christopher Columbus Public Housing Project in Newark, New Jersey, as the 7th of 9 children. Raised by his mother, Jerome got into trouble early, but avoided any serious punishment due to his young age. This would not last, however. Dennis dropped out of school in the 7th grade and his crimes escalated. On November 6, 1981, at age 14, he and his brother attacked a woman in downtown Newark. What is strange is that he and his brother reported the attack to law enforcement from a payphone and stayed on the line until police arrived to arrest them. Once in custody, the brothers confessed to 2 other assaults in the preceding months. They were tried as adults, and their father even testified against them. In December of 1981, they were convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison. While in prison, Jerome Dennis participated in various programs. He learned to bake and took part in Bible studies. Perhaps authorities thought he had turned his life around, and he was released in November 1991 after serving only 10 years, the absolute minimum allowed by the court. He moved into a home in East Orange and began working as a porter at the Pleasantdale Bakery. While he put up a good front of being reformed, once he was free, Dennis could not stop himself from victimizing women. On December 12, 1991, he attacked a 26-year-old named Zelda Bailey, but luckily she survived. After Bailey escaped, Dennis was eager to find his next victim. Only days later, on December 16th, he met 41-year-old Robin Carter. After assaulting her, Jerome strangled her to death, and her body was found later that same day. There was a pause after this first murder, but on February 15, 1992, he was once again on the hunt. 30-year-old Elizabeth Clenor was on her way home after a job interview when she was abducted. After assaulting her, Dennis beat her to death and left her body in an abandoned house. Less than a week later, Jerome Dennis was in search of a victim. On February 21, 1992, he stabbed 30-year-old Stephanie Alston to death, then dumped her body near where he had left Clenor's body, along the Garden State Parkway. The killer had become addicted to murder, as in many other cases, and the very next day he was at it again. His next victim, 16-year-old Kadia Harris, would survive his attack on February 22nd. She was one of the lucky ones. On the night of April 10, 1992, 16-year-old Jamila Jones was walking home from her friend's house. Just blocks away from her home, Jerome attacked her and stabbed her to death. Once she was dead, he dumped her body off an overpass. On the same day that Jones was killed, police would discover the series of murders. Over 2 days, the bodies of Clenor, Jones, Alston, and a 14-year-old named Shakia Hedgepeth were discovered along the Garden State Parkway. A panic fell over the area as news of an active serial killer spread. Going through offenders' records, Jerome's history made him stand out as a potential suspect. His DNA was on record and compared against that of the killer. The surviving victims were also called in to see if they could pick him out of a photo lineup, which they did without hesitation. Jerome Dennis was arrested on April 13, 1992, and charged with nearly 3 dozen felonies. While his lawyers tried to convince the court that he was a schizophrenic, this did not allow him to escape prosecution. The game was up, and on February 27, 1993, he pled guilty to 5 murders, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of armed robbery, 2 counts of criminal restraint, and a parole violation. The other charges were dropped as part of the plea agreement. Here's where this case gets even more frustrating, as apparently the courts did not learn their lesson with this monster. He avoided the death penalty and instead received multiple life sentences. However, he is eligible for parole after 60 years when he is 85. But who's to say this will not change and he'll be released earlier? Others who were on death row have had their sentences commuted, then were released. Why would he be given any chance at parole? Jerome Dennis is currently housed at New Jersey State Prison in Trenton.